Ever wondered why a vulnerable narcissistic wife might dress provocatively around her husband only to deny him sex? This question may seem perplexing, provocative, even a tad controversial. But it's a situation many find themselves in, and it's steeped in layers of complex human behavior. Perhaps she's seeking validation, craving the attention and admiration that comes with dressing in a certain way. Or maybe it's about control, using sexuality as a chess piece in the power dynamics of their relationship. Could it be she's wrestling with conflicting feelings about intimacy and sex, enjoying the attention but struggling with the act itself? Miscommunication could play a part, with unexpressed desires and expectations leading to frustration. Or it could be a web spun from past traumas, learned behaviors, and societal conditioning. And let's not forget the narcissistic traits, the pursuit of admiration, control, and validation. Intrigued? Let's delve deeper into this complex and often misunderstood behavior. First, we need to consider the concept of validation. What is validation, you ask? Well, at its core, validation is the recognition and acceptance of another person's thoughts, feelings, sensations, and behaviors as understandable. It's a fundamental human need, and when we don't get enough of it, we tend to seek it out in other ways. In the context of our discussion, the vulnerable narcissist wife might dress provocatively to seek validation from her husband. She may feel insecure, or perhaps she struggles with low self-esteem. She might believe that by dressing a certain way, she can capture her husband's attention, and in turn, his admiration. Now you might be thinking, isn't that a bit manipulative? Well, yes, it can be, but it's essential to remember that everyone seeks validation in their own ways. Some people might seek it through achievements, others through social media likes, and some, like our hypothetical wife, through physical appearances. But why does she deny her husband sex? This is where it gets complex. Perhaps she enjoys the attention she gets from her provocative attire, but she has conflicting feelings about taking it further to sexual activity. Maybe she's dealing with some emotional issues or past traumas that make it difficult for her to engage in intimacy. Or perhaps, the dynamics of their relationship make it hard for her to express her sexual desires openly. Another factor that could be at play here is communication. If there's a lack of effective communication between the husband and wife about their sexual desires, boundaries, and expectations, it can lead to feelings of frustration or resentment. The wife might feel misunderstood, and the husband might feel rejected. Then, there's the possibility of past experiences or societal conditioning influencing her behavior. Maybe she's learned certain behaviors or coping mechanisms over time that have shaped her approach to intimacy and sexuality. Finally, if the wife exhibits narcissistic traits, her provocative dressing might be more about seeking admiration, control, or validation than about genuine intimacy or connection with her husband. The need for validation can be a powerful driving force behind certain behaviors. Now let's talk about control and power dynamics. In any relationship, power dynamics play a pivotal role. It's the invisible tug-of-war that can shape the course of our interactions and even our lives. Often these dynamics can be subtle, unspoken, and beneath the surface, but they are always there. Consider this scenario. A wife dresses provocatively around her husband. She basks in the attention, the desire in his eyes. But then, she denies him sex. Why? Well, one reason could be that she's using her sexuality as a tool for control and power. You see, sexuality can be a potent weapon. It can hold sway over the other person, creating a power imbalance. By dressing provocatively, the wife is asserting dominance. She's saying, "Look, but don't touch." She's setting the rules of the game, and in doing so, she's controlling the narrative. But why would someone want to exert control in this way? The reasons can be manifold. Maybe it's a way of protecting herself, of creating a shield. Maybe it's a way of dealing with feelings of insecurity or inadequacy. By controlling the sexual dynamics, she's able to feel powerful and in control, even if it's just in this particular aspect of her relationship. It's also important to note that this kind of behavior might not be conscious. Many of our actions are driven by deep-seated emotions and patterns that we may not even be aware of, so it isn't necessarily a calculated move on her part. But regardless of the reasons, this kind of power play can have a profound impact on the relationship. It can breed resentment, frustration, and confusion. It can create a chasm between two people who should be partners, not adversaries. So, what's the solution? Well, it starts with recognizing and understanding these dynamics. It's about having open and honest conversations. It's about finding a balance, a middle ground where both parties feel heard, respected, and valued. Control and power dynamics can greatly influence the dynamics of a relationship, but remember, understanding these dynamics is the first step towards a healthier and more balanced relationship. Communication, or lack thereof, can also play a significant role. In the intricate dance of relationships, communication is the rhythm that keeps the partners moving in sync. It's the bridge that connects two individuals, allowing them to express their desires, needs, and expectations. But what happens when this bridge becomes shaky or worse, non-existent? Imagine a scenario where a wife dresses provocatively but consistently denies her husband sex. This could be a classic example of communication issues at play. Perhaps the husband and wife have not had an open, honest discussion about their sexual desires and boundaries. The wife may be signaling her need for attention and validation, yet she might be uncomfortable or unwilling to engage in sexual activity. On the other hand, the husband might be interpreting her provocative attire as an invitation for sexual intimacy. The lack of clear communication in such scenarios can lead to misunderstandings. The husband might feel confused, frustrated, or even rejected. The wife, meanwhile, might feel misunderstood or pressured. This cycle of misunderstanding and frustration can create a chasm in the relationship, fostering resentment on both sides. Moreover, unexpressed needs or desires can further exacerbate these communication issues. If the wife needs validation or attention but does not express this need to her husband, he may remain oblivious to her emotional needs. If the husband desires sexual intimacy but does not openly communicate this to his wife, she may remain unaware of his physical needs. This lack of communication can lead to a disconnect between the couple, resulting in feelings of dissatisfaction and frustration. It's important to remember that communication is not just about expressing one's needs or desires. It's also about listening to and understanding the other person's perspective. By fostering open, honest communication, couples can better understand each other's needs, desires, and boundaries, thereby reducing misunderstandings and fostering a healthier relationship. Without effective communication, misunderstandings and resentment can easily arise. Past experiences and societal conditioning can also influence behavior. It's like carrying a backpack full of rocks, each stone representing a past hurt, a traumatic experience, or a societal expectation. These burdens shape us, often subconsciously, influencing our decisions, and in this case, how we approach intimacy and sexuality. Imagine being raised in a society that objectifies women, where worth is often tied to physical attractiveness. This conditioning can lead a woman to believe that her value lies in her sexual appeal. She might dress provocatively, seeking validation from her husband, reaffirming her worth in his eyes. On the other hand, past trauma can cast a dark shadow over present relationships. Traumatic experiences related to sex or intimacy can cause a person to struggle with such interactions in the future. For instance, a wife might dress provocatively to maintain a sense of control she felt was taken away in the past, yet deny sex due to fear or discomfort. Moreover, past relationships can also play a significant role. If a woman was previously in a relationship where her partner used sex as a weapon or a means of control, she might replicate these patterns of behavior, using sex or the denial of it as a way to assert her power. And then there are societal standards, the unwritten rules that dictate how we should behave. Societal conditioning can create a paradox of expectations, where women are encouraged to be sexually attractive, yet are chastised for being sexually active. This dichotomy can lead a woman to dress provocatively to meet societal expectations, yet deny sex to avoid the stigma associated with sexual activity. The key here is understanding that a person's behavior can be a reflection of their past experiences, their traumas, and the societal conditioning they've been exposed to. Recognizing this can help in addressing the root cause of the issue rather than focusing on the symptoms. Our past experiences and societal conditioning can greatly influence our behaviors and attitudes. It's important to remember this when trying to understand why a person behaves the way they do. Finally, let's look at narcissistic traits. Narcissism, in its simplest form, is an excessive interest in or admiration of oneself. However, when we delve deeper into the realm of narcissism, it's not just about self-admiration, but also about control and validation. A person with narcissistic traits might use their sexuality as a tool to manipulate others, seeking not just admiration but also dominance. This can manifest in a variety of ways, such as dressing provocatively to attract attention, or using sex as a means of exerting control. It's not about genuine intimacy or connection, but rather about feeding their ego and maintaining a certain power dynamic. When we apply this understanding to our scenario, the wife's provocative dressing and subsequent denial of sex could very well be a manifestation of these narcissistic tendencies. Narcissistic traits can often lead to behaviors driven by a desire for admiration, control, or validation.